You've just joined the Prepper Broadcasting Network, where we promote self-reliance and independence. The views and opinions expressed are strictly those of the host or their guests. Visit us in the interactive chat room at prepperbroadcasting.com.
This program brought to you in part by Sunrunner. Portable, powerful, clean, silent, rugged, off-grid backup power. A Sunrunner patented renewable energy generator will get you through. Learn more at www.sunrnr.com and find your prep.
Tonight's broadcast brought to you in part by Joe and Amy Alton, the authors of the #1 Amazon bestseller, The Doom and Bloom Survival Medicine Handbook. See their articles in Backwoods Home, Survivalist, Self-Reliance Illustrated, and Survival Quarterly magazines. Visit Joe and Amy's website at www.doomandbloom.net.
Good evening and welcome to Preparing for Life Storms with Bear Prepper. Today is Tuesday, November 6th, Election Day, and it's my pleasure to welcome you in tonight. We are on air from 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time on the first and third Tuesdays of the month on American Preppers Radio, powered by PrepperBroadcasting.com. We broadcast 12 different hosts 7 days a week. So please check out the host tab for more information on shows and times. You can also listen to all previous shows under the host archive. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., we have In Time of Disaster, where Karen will be talking about current catastrophes like Hurricane Sandy and how that affects things and are they increasing. And then tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Time, we have Prepping with Goat Hollow. Always great topics to advance your prepping skills and knowledge. So right now I'd like to get another ad from our sponsor.
Hey guys, Charlie McGrath of WideAwakeNews.com here with a message about Legacy Premium Freeze-Dried Storable Food available at PrepareWise.com. I recently returned from the manufacturing facility and I am here to tell you it was impressive. Over 50 employees working hard to produce and ship the highest quality, best tasting, certified GMO-free, freeze-dried storable food on the market. And now that I've been to the facility, I can tell you this. These guys, from receiving to production to shipping, are dedicated to one thing: quality. Do yourself, do your loved ones a favor. Be prepared for an uncertain future by having Legacy Premium Freeze-Dried Storable Food as your insurance policy to the unknown. Visit the folks at PrepareWise.com today. You can call them at 888-545-6265. That number again, 888-545-6265. Or visit them online at PrepareWise.com.
Well, I hope everybody went out and completed their civic duty and voted today. You know, sometimes it's not about who the perfect candidate is. It's more about the lesser of two evils. So, you know, it's something we have to do because you can't really complain if you don't go out there and say it. It looks like our guests are running a little behind tonight. And so we're kind of waiting for them to come on in. They've got a really cool announcement to make, and some of you might have already seen it. Let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about the kind of things that they do and how I think it's important that we get involved in this. One of the things that they do on their channel is they do scenarios. And I think none of us have a lot of skills in scenarios and trying to understand how would we react in a certain situation. So it's important to kind of glean information from others so that we can figure out what to do for ourselves. I'm ad-libbing now, folks, so bear with me. We have, if you'd like to call into the show and save my honey, the phone number is 347-202-0228. But one of my issues is, I won't be having roaming bands walking by my retreat. It looks like our guests have arrived, so let me go ahead and continue on, and then we'll bring them in. So tonight, I think we're all going to gain a lot of great information from our next guest. From YouTube, it's FullSpectrumSurvival, and today they made a big announcement. They are working with some prominent figures in the preparedness community and some private studios to bring you the world's first prepper movie, a feature film made for preppers by preppers. And they promise to bring information that even the most advanced prepper can benefit from. So now I'd like to welcome Brad and Mike on with us. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hi, how are you? How are you, Barry?
Doing great. Well, good to see you. Glad you made it.
We are, too. We're glad to be here.
Well, good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this announcement and what it's going to mean?
Okay, well, the announcement, like you said, is the Prepper movie. We were approached to help make this movie, and in short, I'd like to give everyone a little synopsis of what's going to happen. The viewer is going to experience an event that takes place around the world. They're going to then follow a small group of individuals or individuals as themselves as they adjust to what happens when the grid goes down and then how they survive in a lawless environment. And when me and Mike were approached, we said, okay, well, we have to make this real because it's never been done before. Every movie that's out there gives you what happens in a post-apocalyptic world and then a very fake way to get out of it, something that no one can really walk away and say, oh, I learned something from that. And that's what we wanted to turn around with this movie. And in doing so, we've met with some people who have really experienced the collapse. And some with family who still are living under oppression in different countries around the world, where gangs and hierarchies of corruption really control their day-to-day life, even today. And it's through their experience and through the experience of the combat veterans that we're going to bring everybody information that they can use and promise to enrich the viewers' thoughts on preparedness. And that's our mission.
Well, that is exciting because, we've got those other shows like Doomsday Preppers and, they tend to make everybody look pretty silly. And, we're preppers and we're serious. We're not doing a game and we're not all about this crisis, and thinking the apocalypse is going to happen tomorrow. We're about day-to-day life's crisis. And so it's nice to see that.
Yeah, that's exactly. We were asked today, we did an interview a little bit earlier today. This is Michael speaking. It's been a really long day for us. Can't thank you so much for yourself having us on your radio show for American Preppers Network and the Preppers Broadcast to have us here with you today and all the listeners and viewers to YouTube. We were asked earlier today, what can viewers expect from the Prepper movie? And the number one thing they can expect is a massive quantity of effort from my brother and I. Preparedness has been our personal lifestyle for as long back as we can remember, and we're going to work real hard to reflect in the movie the effort that yourself and your listeners put into their preparedness plans. And that's our number one goal here.
And that is awesome. So got you guys into doing this? Why did you decide to join and be a part of the Prepper movie?
Mike's number one rule, and I'll let him go ahead and answer that.
Was
that it was free.
That's right. Do you mean the preparedness? Do you mean creating creative content or part of the movement?
Part of the movement.
Well, we had always been, somewhat behind the scenes in the movement. It was really people such as yourself that stepped out of the box and started saying, obviously operational security is important to each and every one of us, especially those who have young children or family members. But taking the risk to step out to teach other people, the awakened and the unawakened, the importance of preparedness, we felt it hit critical mass. I mean, there's a lot of brave people out there putting a lot of great quality content. And our lives have been enriched by it, and we wanted to give back, and we felt it was good timing to do so.
Well, I'm glad, for one, that you did. I enjoy every single one of your videos, and I glean something from every single one. Even though, our situations are different, our environments are different, there's always something that you can learn to do that you didn't even think about before. So, gentlemen, I appreciate that a lot.
Oh,
okay,
you're welcome.
So if you'd like to call into the show. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. If you'd like to call into the show, the phone number is 347-202-0228. And remember to press 1 to speak to Brad and Mike. And also, folks, I know you all like to wait till the second half hour to call. And if those phone lines get tied up, it's going to be real tough to get your question answered. So call on in now, take a deep breath, and just do it. All right. So being rather new to YouTube, like I said, I use your scenario videos, and I think those are my favorite. And so my question is, and I'm sure a lot of people have the same question, how do we evaluate our situations or environments to figure out what type of scenarios that we should be practicing for or that might affect us?
Okay, so a simple tabletop exercise you can do with some very easy memes that cross the internet. We've all talked about them: bug in, bug out, retreat defense. Basically, what we do in a very simplistic way is we have an individual that is the team leader, and he has an inventory of the resources that we have available to us or that we must acquire, the operational environment, what has happened in the scenario. Has the grid gone down? Are there roving bands of looters? Has any level of law and order been restored?
It's dangerous to go outside.
Right. He builds this world with some input from some other team members, and then at that time he develops an operations order or mission plan or objective. And so if you did just a bug out, you would have to have a location to bug out to, and that would be part of the tabletop. You would have the resources that you can transport. That would be part of the tabletop. Then you would start to apply conditions to that. Are all parties that are to meet at the bug out location have rally points? Are they all present at the demarcation line when the decision has been made to go to the retreat? What amount of time are you giving yourself or the group members to arrive at the retreat, and what is the course of action if they all don't make it? And you just start thinking through this entire process of, will the roads be clear? Are you ahead of the power curve, or are you behind it because of situations you couldn't control, or a natural disaster event that there was no way around it? And you start practicing them, and the application of time constraints and resource constraints is where the skill or the weaknesses start to be exposed. If you go back to a video, if you like the scenario videos, it was one of our first ones, the Hunt for Resources, very simplistic. The part that you didn't see was the adventure race before I was actually at the targeted location to find the resources, and the amount of effort that had to go into the actual trek to that location. And that's where there was definitely some weaknesses on the amount of goods that I had in my backpack for that level of travel under those time constraints. And that's what those scenarios are all about, is developing, parlaying on your strengths, identifying your weaknesses and a plan to improve them, and then being able to take a good inventory of your assets or a plan to acquire new ones.
Okay, so, one of the things that being, I'm ex-military, but I'm not frontline military. And so, for you to do a scenario or a walkthrough of how you do your tabletops on a video, I think would really benefit a lot of people. So that's just kind of a bug in your ear. But we do have a question for you. Jim from Texas. Hey, Jim, good to see you in here tonight. Glad you're feeling better. Is the movie theatrical fiction or a documentary?
The cinematic portion of the movie will be fiction based upon what really can happen and what's most likely to happen in our current climate throughout the world. And then after the post-movie instructionals and editorials will be completely fact, where we're going to break down real instructions that everybody can use, real tactics that everybody can use. We're going to have combat veterans that have recently returned from the battlefield.
Let me try and address that. It's one of our goals is to really be able to cinematically blur the lines between reality and fiction, for the viewer to be able to start the thought process, to apply new skills, or to go out and develop plans that suit their own personal environment. Now, and I'm going to try and keep this real simple. From the position of the consultants, the international consultants that we've been working with, we've identified the importance of truly capturing on film the velocity of events once a collapse has started, and the key decisions that each individual must make in the very beginning to gain as much control as possible over their own individual situation. So we're working hard with the writers to capture that velocity and the interpersonal skills that are necessary for each of our viewers to gain as much control as possible when you have a grid failure or you have a loss of law and order. And that's one of our very first priorities that we happen to be working on now with the writers.
So I guess the quick answer to our question is it will be both fact and fiction.
Right.
And the viewer will ask themselves throughout different parts of even the cinematic portion, is this really happening? Is this, was that live fire that was going on? Was that somebody's real bug out stores and location? And that blended line is going to be real for everybody to see.
Well, that sounds exciting. I'm glad that you're doing that, because I think people don't understand how quick it's all going to go down and how easy it is to get lost in those moments.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for your personal service in our military. We have been working with the combat veterans, and they're playing a key role. These men and women have an encyclopedic knowledge of the battle space that they have recently fought in. And it's been an honor for both my brother and I to work with them. And they are true operators, and they've shown just an intense interest in solving issues related to defense for their community. And that we couldn't ask for more.
Oh, that is awesome. And, yeah, I've been corrected by, I'm not ex-military, I'm former military. And
that's right. That's right.
And I come from a long line of military, and most of my family's in the military. So, you kind of get ingrained with that. And part of that is helping each other, because in the military you become a family.
That's right. And that oath never goes away.
Right, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to kind of switch up a little bit here, and I want to talk a little bit about this peach orchard in Denver. And I'm sure some of you have heard about it, and others you may not have. I'm trying to get the link here so that I can give that to you guys for the article. But so what happened is that this peach orchard, it was their first crop, and they decided, since it was so bad, that they were going to be generous, and they contacted the Daily Sentinel, and they ran an article and said, we're going to offer these peaches for free to the public. So, as always, 90% of the people behaved respectfully, but once again, you have that 10%, and that 10%, they broke fences, they broke pipes, they stole the neighbors' peaches because their peach trees were empty, and they raided the family's apple trees. They banged on the door all hours of the night and demanded peaches. They just wouldn't accept that there weren't enough for everyone. So this entitlement benefit, this entitlement belief, and I think that's prevalent in our country at this point in time, that everybody thinks they deserve to have what others have. So, a lot of people, even myself, I have things set aside in my stores to give to people. And now this kind of situation makes me want to rethink whether or not I should give to people. Do you think that this mentality that everybody, I want what you have, is going to be prevalent in an SHTF situation or a bad existence?
We like to believe, and we put into practice in our preparedness levels, that the human is good, and we like to believe that people are good, and we know that there are some bad apples, or in this case, bad peaches, that will come along, and it's just important to prepare for those situations. And like you said, you have some stores to give to people. That is, we commend you for that. That's a great thing. It's a blessing to have and to do, and to have people like you in the community. And in respect of that, I would say plan your giving like a mission. I wouldn't have anyone come to my house to give them anything. I would let them know that there's a church nearby where everyone can meet on a Sunday morning, hear a service, and then there will be stores given to people, or a location that is not your retreat, because that, I guess at the root of it, Operation Security keeps you from even having to wonder, should I answer the door, or should I tell them I have anything?
That's a good idea. The only problem is, of course, that you may not have the defenses that you need in an alternate location to protect your own self, because half of your group is going to have to be left behind to protect everything that's there. So it is a fine line on what you can do. I'm trying to refocus myself on my local community. So I'm looking at those within, a so many mile radius that I'm going to have to interact with that I know aren't necessarily preppers, but they have things, so we can kind of benefit each other. And those that have nothing, then those will be the ones I give to. I don't know if I'm going to go to the point of reaching out to others that aren't right in my local community. And my community is not really huge, but I think it's something we all need to think about instead of this just, well, I want to help everybody mentality.
Right.
And, go ahead.
That's a really good plan. As part of our effort, or I should say, at least from Brad and my own perspective, is that the more information that is freely shared about the importance of preparedness, and that's not a mission that him and I have been involved in at all. The awakening process, such as yourselves and other YouTubers that are your listeners, that are just excellent at giving the argument and showing the reasons why every family should be prepared, and man, woman, and child. If you look, we have some friends from Russia who actually went on and did it was funny, it was in an apartment, and they did a Neighbors for Preparedness drive that really caught Brad and my attention. And they went in there and had each neighbor talk to each other in the apartment complex and developed a really unique plan of mutual aid in the apartment complex. I don't know if that same type of camaraderie, having our citizens of our country not experience a recent collapse like they had in Russia, where that financial problem that they had lasted a long time, and a lot of people were harmed greatly by it. And maybe that was the catalyst that made it possible there. But it was just a dynamic plan that we looked at, and part of our effort is to try and give support to the community so we can, as a group, reach as many people as possible. So you're not dealing with a mob at the tree, each tree. You might only be dealing with a few individuals that you can work with to show them a path where they can sustain themselves. And I think that's the root of a lot of our work, and I know it's a good effort, and I know a lot of people won't listen, but at the end of the day, everyone has to draw their own personal line in the sand where they're at with their preparations and what resources they can afford to give, and when giving is not possible. Because those very consultants that we have who have lived through some really terrible situations are very clear that when the resources are depleted to a certain level, that it is every family for themselves.
Right.
And that's an awakening process for us. Now, there could be religious and ethical considerations where it might be different here, but the reality of the picture that they've painted is quite bleak in terms of at the resource line, that it is no longer possible to keep everyone nourished, that it gets really, really ugly, and violence is deployed more often than not for the protection of resources. So we're listening really well, and we're going to try and make some of these big issues, which this is a big issue that you brought up, very as clear as we can, to give people at least the opportunity to think about it deeply and to have a plan, to know what they're going to do for themselves from an individual moralistic standpoint when they have to handle that type of situation.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why I started the Bexar County Preparedness Meetup, not only to meet preppers in my area, and I have met some amazing preppers in my area that I have just really connected with, and but to kind of see the mentality and try to get them thinking in ways of survival and understanding, watch your neighbors. What do you think they're going to do? How are they going to behave? How safe are you going to be? How safe is your stores? Because I think that's going to be a really raw awakening for a lot of people. I can sit and look at my friends, per se, and I could tell you which one of my friends would be demanding of give me what you have, and those that are generous. And that's going to be my downfall, because I am a very generous person. And saying no to anybody is going to be extremely difficult for me.
Yeah. No, we hear what you're saying.
We discussed
the very same thing. I mean, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to hold human life at its highest regard, and that's a personal standpoint that my brother and I take. There's nothing more important to us than human life, but at the same time, there is a hierarchy of importance for human life with us, and our families come first, and then our friends and our neighbors, and so on and so forth. So we've been faced with a lot of, in our professional life, people know who we are. We don't hide who we are and how we live our life. And they've all come to us at certain points in times of catastrophe, whether it be a local hurricane. And we've given them plans, and we told them that, you are responsible for your families to a certain degree. And a good way that we've been able to reach some of those hard-to-reach people is actually FEMA's own website that tells you must have, you're better off to have 3 days to 3 weeks of food. And for a lot of people that are not awakened, that's what they need to read in order to just get a basic amount of stores. So when we are unsuccessful with them on showing them what long-duration emergencies could really be like for them and their family, because a lot of them don't, quite frankly, want to think about it, we resort back to it's better to have a few friends with 3 days to 3 weeks of food than friends knocking on your door with nothing.
Right, right. Well, Micah says that he wouldn't call them friends if they behave that way. But you know what? We all are flawed. We are all flawed differently. And what makes us unique human beings is that we have the ability to overlook those flaws and pull the good out of people.
You're absolutely right, and that's a conversation my brother and I have quite often when we have someone new that shows a lot of interest, and that is, we look to incorporate them into our family. And that's one of our major goals and that takes a lot. We have to know the individual quite well, but we really look at what, in times of disaster and of need, what are their capabilities, what are their skill sets, how do we know them on a professional level, what do we know about their families on a personal level, and we work real hard to find a place for them in our thought process.
Right. Yeah, and I think more people need to do that. Sometimes people are just so unforgiving of the smallest errors. Well, let me get in. We got to take a little break here, so let me tell everybody a little bit about what's on next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. It will be the Cricket Path to Preparedness. There will always be another problem or difficulty. It's called life. So Sissy Bob will be talking about issues and difficulties that people have had to work through. The bright side is for every problem you work through before a real SHTF situation happens, the more prepared and equipped you will be to deal with it. So now we're going to hear a quick message from our sponsors, and then we'll get back to you.
This program brought to you in part by Sunrunner. Portable, powerful, clean, silent, rugged, off-grid backup power. A Sunrunner patented renewable energy generator will get you through. Learn more at www.sunrnr.com and find your prepper dealer.
Okay, I'm noticing in the chat room, G-Man made a comment. When under extreme pressure, people will change, and you may not know them anymore. And you know what? That is so true. And the friends that I have seen that I know are the ones that are going to react with the give me and demanding attitude are the ones that have been under extreme pressure. And so you learn from that to look for clues so that you can see how somebody's going to react. Because if you can plan for that reaction, then it becomes a non-reaction. So, okay, folks. You need to call in. You've only got these guys on for another 30 minutes, and they've really got some great information. The phone number is 347-202-0228. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about bartering. I noticed in one of your videos you did a barter situation. It went bad, and I thought that was great information because sometimes we just don't think about what it is, how it's going to react. We just think everything's going to be peachy keen and everybody's going to be on the up and up. And so my question to you is there a safe way to approach that type of situation so we don't find ourselves in the situation that you showed in your video?
Well, a lot of times, and what we've seen in other countries is that a barter routine will be set up quickly.
Very quickly. And we're really going to reiterate a lot of what we did in the after-action review of that video is never do it alone.
Right.
Always have someone in overwatch position with, hands down, that's probably the number one, whether you were able to develop a lead on something on a resource that you need to secure through human intelligence or signals intelligence over the radio. Never do it alone. That's the number one.
Okay, never do it alone.
Never.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, but it's just whoosh.
Yeah, and it's also having our philosophy is now, unfortunately, neither of us have won the lottery, so we have limitations on our own resources that we can purchase, whether it be communications or transportation. So we start out with what we can afford to start out with, and whether that's a CB radio with a Harbor Freight solar panel and a 12-volt battery, or it's a GMRS radio that you can buy at your local sporting goods store, you have to have a means to communicate, and work on making that means better for yourself and for your group. So you have to start where you can afford to start, and then move up in the ladder as you develop the skills and can put towards the resources to purchase the equipment. Because communication, if you don't have it, you will be dealing in a world of rumors. Rumors, what's happening locally in a grid-down environment, nationally, and possibly globally. And I would prefer to have, even if it's a CB and someone, you can garnish information of someone, or how they can rebroadcast information that they've heard on shortwave radio. You're going to feel much more comfortable being able to develop your own situational awareness plan on information you're getting directly from a radio than you will operating in the rumor mill that we know is happening right now in Syria. We know, we've talked to people, we know that they don't know whether they're coming or they're going.
Right.
And that's a terrible, terrible situation for people to find themselves in.
Yeah, and I that's one of the things that my family and I are now working on. We're trying to tighten up the vehicle so that if we have to take back roads, that we can get to our retreat without issues. We're setting up communications so that we can talk to each other along the way or within so many miles of each other. We're working on communications at the retreat and being able to communicate in other areas. We're going to be working on setting something up with G in Houston and then Pet Prepper to get some communication going across state lines.
Well, I'll tell you what, we would love to be part of that. I mean, we think it's really important to develop an offline form of communication. You know, it's one of our preparedness goals to participate in something just like what you described, and especially with like-minded people. I mean, all the listeners and all the viewers and all the content providers. I mean, we are all freely sharing information. It would be great to have other forms of communication with those individuals.
And Mike had actually taken the time with a couple of figures within the community here locally and some as far as Alaska and some other countries to develop the groundwork for just that kind of system. So we'd love to talk off air about what you guys have and if there's anything that the groundwork Mike developed has to offer it and what we can do to help.
Yeah, so we can all share. And if people could start out just by listening on the Internet via shortwave, and as they move through the process of developing their own communications plan into ham radio, it's something we all need to be doing together without a doubt.
Right, and I agree. That's one of the reasons why I had the old geezer on to try to get us started with an understanding of communications so that we could at least start talking about it and make that move. Because I agree. I think it's very important. I think knowledge is power, and without that knowledge, then you're in this isolated, and you can't breathe.
Yeah,
you really need to know.
Yeah, you cannot make good decisions based on rumors. That's for sure. And not saying
right.
that the airwaves wouldn't be full of rumors, but at least you'd be able to get some kind of overview of what's actually happening or is being purported to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, the airwaves are no different than the Internet. But it looks like we have Genius in Exile in queue. Hey, Gene, you there?
I'm here.
How are you this evening, my dear?
I'm in. Oh, I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
Good, good. What kind of question you got for the boys tonight, or the men, excuse me?
Actually, I had a comment. I was going to say that these guys are definitely to be commended. I spend a lot of time, even just quiet time when I actually have it, thinking about all the different scenarios I could possibly prepare for. And the fact that they're actually, kind of putting them to light and, showing different situations, that, it actually calms a lot of my fears. What would I do in this situation? What would I do in that situation? And the funny part about me is I watch zombie movies, etc. They're training videos for me.
Anything. Well, we thank you for the compliment, and anything that gets you thinking. We feel the same way. If you have a motive or a means of entertainment that gets you thinking, what would I do? We employ the use of that across the board.
Yeah, motivation for you to develop plans, and that's awesome that you're thinking about it. I mean, I don't think you could ever have enough plans.
That's right.
That's for sure.
Really
it's a great thing, and one thing I wanted to say to you is, again, thank you for that comment, but we all of us, ourselves, yourselves, all the listeners and all the viewers, any voids that we have remaining to fill in our preparedness plans will define us. So if you can identify a void that you have in your personal preparedness plan and you can fill it, you are much better off in a grid down or collapse situation than you would be if you have not filled that void. And half the work that we actually do is identifying those voids in our own personal preparedness plans.
You guys are just amazing. I mean, some days can get a little overwhelming, and I find myself just almost chewing on my fingernails thinking, crud, what if this happens, what if that happens, and hate to beat a dead horse, but Sandy, they knew. They knew. And they were out jogging and then not doing what they needed to do, and only 3 days after everything fell, people were eating out a dumpster, and I think to myself, I could do 3 days standing on my head.
You're right, that's right. And, and we commend you for that. And, unfortunately, that's a situation we all find ourselves in, and it can be a lot worse. So we're hoping that those videos of those people, I don't know, it was New Jersey, New York, that were rummaging through dumpsters is a motivator for people in that area to get more prepared.
And to reach out to help the people who are afflicted by it right now.
Right, which is our number one goal, because I doubt very seriously any of those people, if they have the wherewithal, will ever let that happen again. And I'd hate to see it happen on a global level where there is no second chance for people who have not awakened yet to the possibility.
No, and it's absolutely amazing what can happen. I actually saw one video where this guy was talking about how he was distributing food at a relief effort, in another country, and they were handing out just anything. They kept the truck moving so nobody could, overwhelm the vehicle. And one guy handed an elderly man a sleeve of saltine crackers. The guy ran over to the side of a building, opened it up, and started eating it. A 9-year-old boy with a machete came by and struck the man in the back of the neck and took the saltines, bloody and all, and crammed them into his mouth. And I thought, my gosh, if you're in a normal situation, everyday situation, you would just cringe at the very thought. But he did it, and that's what hunger drove him to. And what would you do if your children were starving and scared, your wife, your husband, your parents, the people around you that you love were starving? What would you do? And it's that base animal instinct that's my biggest fear. That is my biggest fear.
Well, have you pursued self-defense? I mean, that's part of a good survival plan. Have you looked into that?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I come from a long line of military too. I'm Air Force like a bear, and I've lost a lot of weight, and I'm pretty darn hardcore. I'm only 5'6", and I'm a little over 200 pounds, and it's not fat. Well,
don't mess with her.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
With her.
Yeah, it's excellent to hear. I'm glad you're working on your plan. That's great.
Me and Mike, we through our adolescence took different paths, and we had found as we got a little older that we were on the same path, and that's really that drove us into preparedness together. And we made a commitment to each other and to our families early on that we would never let fear make us do one thing or another, that we would work hard to think of the things that can happen and prepare as best we are able to for those events. And by doing that, we've explored a lot of different options, from hunger to defense to homesteading and independence, and that's something we've actually been motivated. A lot of people are motivated by fear to get it done, and we've been motivated by by our confidence in not letting fear make us act one way or another, or make us act upon a situation. And so,
right.
We like to see that employed too, because we do see a lot of people, and we see it happen across the world too, that when you're confronted with the situation, you really do only have two choices, and that's fight or flight. And we like to make sure everyone has thought of those situations beforehand, so they know if they're going to fight, they need to get out quick. If they're going to fight, they need to start it.
Sometimes flight is a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I'm in third world countries where, I've seen people, squatting, cooking over a fire, and you can't identify the meat, but they're all looking at it like it's, the biggest prize in the world. I mean, I've been in places where people were just starving. One box of spaghetti would feed 8 people, I've seen this. I've seen what people do when they're hungry, and it'll haunt you. It'll haunt you.
Yeah, that's you are 100% correct. And in our society, it's so unfortunate that so many good meat sources are looked down upon. Where in the southern countries, they use guineas as a large meat source because of they're very proliferate and they have a high quality of meat. But we have some people local to us that raise guineas, and when we've discussed it with people as an option for their homesteading and for their self-sustenance, they're just turned off by it, just because society as a whole has said that that's a rat and I would never eat that. But there's a lot of countries where people would, they would climb over each other to eat guineas, and so we're thankful that we're blessed with the forethought to prepare the way that we have, and that everyone thinks those same things. Well, what would I do? And, what can I do? What would I stretch my normal boundaries on?
Yep. And if you don't like guinea, Bear's got a great recipe for leg.
Yeah, let's hope that. I know I'll never come to that, because I've got enough food to last from here till eternity, I think. Plus, of course, I don't just believe in storing it. I garden, and I just put in my orchard. So, but yeah, let's not go there, G. Okay?
we weren't going to touch that one, Bear.
I got harassed so much over that video, and it's like, well, golly, gee, I would never do that. but yeah, you'd be surprised. One of the things that I have noticed, though, is there are a lot of people waking up. As bad as Doomsday Preppers is, it has woke people up, and it just surprises me. But I don't care how they wake up. Just wake up.
That's right. We're all safer the more that are awake. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
I know every day at work, it's like someone else comes up to me and says, "You're Bear Prepper, aren't you?" Yeah. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. And it's like, okay, I guess it's out of the bag.
That's right. Your anonymity is lost forever.
That's quite all right. They'll never find my retreat, and they can't get
there
it from
you
my
go.
lips.
That's what we like to hear.
Well, gee, thank you so much for calling in.
Well, thanks for talking to me, y'all. It's a great show, and y'all have a good evening.
Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, too. Good night.
Okay, guys, we've got maybe, 5-7 minutes left. What other great advice can you offer us to make us be more prepared or to head in the right direction?
We see a lot of value in community involvement, at least to the point that you are developing a situational awareness plan. And what I mean by that is, in every local town or municipality, the sheriff or one of his deputies is going to put on a seminar about protecting your children as they're on their way to school, or protecting your children from the internet. And we suggest strongly that you participate and understand the dynamics of your local environment to the point where you know a couple of the police officers that are patrolling your area. You take the time out to talk to the people who who are involved, whether they're utility workers, and you develop relationships. These people have a plethora of information that you and I in a preparedness movie can benefit from. And the relationships start out very simple. How are you? How are you doing? I'm interested in what you're doing in the community. And all of a sudden you start to develop this picture of what's really happening for you locally. And from that, there's almost a gauge that you can put. Brad and I are much more interested in our local environment than we are in our national environment and the global environment, because it doesn't really hit home until it comes local. So we're constantly looking for local information. What is our crime rate in our area? Because as you say, disaster can happen anywhere. Living in Florida, we have brush fires when we have drought years, which thank God this year wasn't a drought year. But we're always looking at those areas and developing them into our preparedness plans. And we think that it's something you can do. You form great relationships. You end up meeting a lot of like-minded people. And they might not frame preparedness the same way you do, but we live in a really easy state because we have hurricanes every year. So everyone in our state has been very programmed to understand the value of minimal preparedness. So our conversations just can leapfrog off of that quite simply. I don't know all the challenges that your viewers might have in other states or what the political or the social environments may be. But even if they don't agree with their local politics and their local situation, you're going to come home, and if you've been quiet and done the observation that you can do without being an outspoken critic of any type, you can rest assured that you understand what's happening locally to you, and then you can more gauge what's going to happen during a catastrophe or a long duration emergency.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, one of the things that I've been trying to do is build those relationships. Like my mailman, for instance, he's quite a liberal, but I chit-chat with him, and I get some of the greatest information from him of what's going on in the neighborhood. We've got a 340-building complex going up within a mile, and it's going to be Section 8 housing. And I'm not saying all Section 8 housing is bad. That's not what I'm saying. But when you get a lot of Section 8 housing, you have a much higher crime. And so, now that I know this is going up in the next 2 years, I know I need to move within the next 2 years if I want my family to be safe when I'm not at home and something bad were to happen. Because, we all have to go to work, and you've got to make it home from work first. So, certain areas are going to go rampant quicker than others.
Yeah, that's very true. But, sometimes, in some areas it has the opposite effect, though, during a collapse, because those people live quite differently, and there's a hierarchy built there already. So I think that situation can actually work either way. It can work for your benefit or for, in your normal thought process, it could be a detriment in your viewpoint. But that is a great example of situational awareness, and to develop as many of those as you can possibly have really lets you sit back with a better view of your immediate surroundings to gauge how you're going to make decisions and what are your long-term decisions. If one is moving, then that's something you have to incorporate into your plan. Another one might be in a different direction, but it's very important to do it.
Well, that's great. Now, what about CERT training? One of the things that I've been contacted about with CERT training, and what it is certification for emergency response teams. And, I get a lot of gruff from it from the meetup because nobody wants to let the government know who they are. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I'll know what their plans are and how they're going to react in our area in the event of a disaster. Is my thinking wrong?
I don't think so. We've had a lot of discussions with a lot of different personalities across the board. And, the conclusion that we came to was for those personalities that feel that way, that they don't want the that they don't want the government to know who they are, a simple question can be asked of them, and that is that they either believe that the government is powerful enough to listen to every phone call, which we all know that they have forever, or they don't believe that. And if they say they believe that they're powerful enough, then they already know who they are, so they don't need to worry about it.
You can't really. It's a topic that's very, very touchy because there's a certain level of cognitive dissonance that I think everybody experiences in that realm. We'd rather leave that up to the individual. But I don't. We're out there. We're producing content. There's no hiding for us. So everybody has to make a decision on their, based on the merits and their thought processes. And I think everybody's plans are a little bit different, and we respect them all.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's great advice. You all have to go with your heart. Well, it looks like we're just about out of time. So I would like to thank you both, Mike and Brad, for coming on tonight. And, folks, please, if you haven't gotten a chance to check out the YouTube channel, it's Full Spectrum Survival, one word. Also, don't forget to check out thepreppermovie.com, and you can also find that on their website, FullSpectrumSurvival.com. And I hope you keep us updated on how your movie is progressing, and I'm really excited about it, and congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. We have a media manager who's going to be taking care of all the consistent updates, so we want to make sure that everyone follows us along on Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter account, it will be framed within the website, and we'll also be posting consistent updates on the YouTube, on both YouTube channels, where we're at various locations that we'll be filming in, and we're going to give information of where we're at beforehand, so that if we're in the area and you guys want to come out and see us, and if we have parts in there to be in, we would absolutely love to have everyone involved come be a part of making the world's first prepper movie.
Woohoo! That's exciting. Well, again, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on tonight.
Oh, thank you, and thank all your listeners, and G-Man.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, guys, so let me go ahead and close with my normal quotes. A mob is always made up of people, no matter what. Every mob in every town is always made up of people you know. Doesn't say much for him, does it? Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird. And from Charles McKay, men, it has been well said, think in herds. It will be seen that they go mad in herds, while they only recover their senses slowly and one by one. Keep that in mind, folks. I will see you in a week from this Tuesday, November 20th at 8 p.m. Central Time, when we talk about bug-out bags. What should you include and what items no one should be without. So I hope you join me then. For now, you can find more from me on YouTube and on Facebook, also here on the first and third Tuesday of each month. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. Good night and blessings.